Hello, and welcome. I think it hasn't quite clicked. There we go. And welcome to the Modern Day Council. I'm Chris Eischen, and with us today is Eric Lehman of the Game Changer Movement and Larry Hagner. And Larry has a new book out called The Dad's Edge. Did I get that right?
Yes,
The
you did.
Dad's Edge. And Larry, what we're going to do is kind of give you an opportunity to kind of plug your book a little bit, tell us a little bit about it, um, and then we'll kind of go into like what inspires you to write it and what kind of drove this passion that you have behind being a dad and being, one of the members of the Modern Dad Council. So go ahead.
Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. So, I guess to answer your question, what really drove my passion to write the book was when I first became a father 9 years ago. I felt like I really struggled with it, to be honest with you. I struggled with patience. I struggled with maybe a connection with my wife. I felt like once we had kids, it was harder, to connect, to have intimacy, to make time for each other. I also struggled with a connection with my kids. I mean, me being in my mid 30s at the time, it's hard to speak the language of a toddler, or it's hard to speak the language of a 9-year-old. It's hard to speak the language of a 7-year-old. The other thing that I found out was I held in a lot. I kind of, it was what I like to call it. I struggled in silence. I always wanted to portray that everything was perfect, on my side. Like I had everything handled. I was a strong dad, I was a strong man, and for me to, speak up and say, I'm really struggling in this area. Like I'm really struggling with patience. I'm really struggling with work-life balance. I don't know how to get around it. I'm struggling with the intimacy with my wife. I'm struggling with trying to connect to my kids, and all the while I've got this voice inside my head that, constantly likes to tell me I'm not doing this right. It's kind of like the quote from Mr. Mom, you're doing it wrong. I don't know if you guys remember that. I'm probably aging myself a little bit, but but I mean that's kind of the way I felt. And what I did was when I first launched the Good Dad Project 3 years ago was I just started a Facebook page and I just started kind of openly talking about this stuff. And what I found out is that the majority of us dads really have those exact same struggles. But the thing is we don't really talk about it. So what I've done over the past 3 years is I've had the opportunity to interact with so many dads, and so many dads that are way smarter than I am, to really help me become a better father. I mean, do I have it mastered? No. Am I an expert father? No. I mean, I make so many mistakes a day, it's not even funny. I mean, you can just ask my wife, she'll tell you. But and so will my kids. My kids will tell you the same thing. Dad, you're doing it wrong. So, but the thing was is that the more I the more I learned, and the way that I learned the best was reaching out to people that maybe necessarily weren't professionals. Like for instance, I mean, I've read books that are written by PhDs, and I always felt like I was being talked down to, or they were speaking from above, and it was hard to relate to some of the content because it's almost like I really wanted to to know what a dad was doing in the trenches, not necessarily from up on a pedestal. And one of the things that I found just by talking to mentors and other dads who have been dads a lot longer than I have is that we all seem to struggle with these 9 things that I wrote about in the book. And the 9 strategies in the book to basically enjoy fatherhood, get out of your own way, help you with patience, help you with confidence, a little bit of growth. I mean, it was really just as educational for me to write it, as it was to give it to somebody. So that's really where the passion of the book came from. I felt like there was a gap in my own fatherhood, and there was my own struggles that I had to deal with, and I wanted a bit of a roadmap. I mean, I think the best analogy I think I've ever heard is this, and that is, imagine, Chris or Eric, you guys wanting to be a doctor or be a surgeon, be an orthopedic surgeon, and before you even spent your very first day of medical school, they sent you to the OR and they're like, hey, this guy broke his leg, go fix it. And you have no education, no strategy, no nothing. All you have is like, I need to fix this, or I need to do this. I don't necessarily have the tools. And I mean, my gosh, how overwhelming and how frustrating can that be? Well, a lot of times that's the way we feel in fatherhood. You know, our kids don't come with manuals, so it's like, boom, you were a father one day, and then that's it, and now you got to figure it out as you go. So really, the passion in the book came from really just want to give guys a tool, 9 strategies for ways that they could that I could basically help somebody else, and that's really what I did with the book. And the book, I will say this, it's an easy read. I made it that way. I wrote the book with a busy dad in mind. I wrote it so it's easy for a man to read. Even if you don't have time to read the 9 chapters, it's only 100 pages long. What I did at the end of every chapter is I did 2 to 4 takeaway tips. That way, it just summarizes like, hey, okay, like I have this information, but what do I do with it? So the takeaway tips are just for that. So even if you don't have time to read the book, at least you can read the takeaway tips, and that will help.
That's cool. I like that. Yeah, and it's kind of so you're basically as you're going through it yourself, like, okay, wow, I've learned that I have to be more patient and that these strategies work for me. I'm going to write that down. That's going to be chapter 1 of my book. Right? So by the
Yeah,
time you get it all figured out, you're like, well, this is good documentation. And then some wise kid will come along and read that and say, okay, I know how to get started and how to apply this to my life.
right, right. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's awesome. I like that.
a lot of the strategies, though, too, I mean, yes, it came from trial and error, but a lot of it came from dads I've gotten to interact with who have been fathers for way longer than I have. So they've been down the road that we're traveling with younger kids or teenage kids or whatever it is, and those guys are the best resources. The gap is that a lot of us dads don't talk about this stuff. We don't sit there and become vulnerable with another guy or another man who maybe is maybe a little bit smarter than us to get that insight. And really, like I said, I don't call myself an expert father by any means. I don't have any accolades behind my name. The one thing that I just really decided to do was just to become a student more of fatherhood, just to try to grow and constantly learn, to constantly be better. And that's really what the book is. It's several strategies that I've gotten to learn, that I've implemented, that work, that I've seen implement for other fathers as well. So it's really just that.
It's mentorship is
It is.
what I keep feeling. Um, it's like there was this area of time in which mentorship kind of got overlooked, or and that's kind of our role as dads, is that having that, being that mentor to our children by leading by example, but also and then some of us don't have necessarily our dads as our mentors, but because they weren't around or in our lives, but we have some other person that was in that held that space.
Right.
So I just have that feeling of mentor as a good term to place in there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, and I think the main thing is like, for instance, when you go to school, right? I mean, if you're going to school to learn about whatever space or industry you're going to be in, whether that be a doctor, whether that be a construction worker, whether that be an architect, you are going to school and you are taught by people who have mastered that craft. And
Mhm.
that's in fatherhood. It seems like that's what there is no really class or manual or anything like that. I mean, and I felt like some of the things that were out there, just it was a good tool, but it maybe necessarily wasn't relatable. So that's what I've really tried to do with the book, is to give it a mentoring feel, but make it super relatable. The fact that I can speak basically arm in arm with another dad versus then on top and speaking down, with psychology mumbo jumbo.
Right. I totally get you. I feel like that with Jay sometimes too. I
Every
was
time
like, shoo, over my
I know
head.
he's not here
Um,
today, but like last time we were on the show, I mean that's what I'm saying. He every time he just opens his mouth, I feel like I'm listening to Master Yoda. I'm like, oh,
right.
insightful.
Dang it, I gotta write this down.
I know, right? Yeah.
So Eric, you've been awfully quiet. I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'm excited, to be a part of anything that helps dads with this journey, and I feel like, I was trying to be part of the launch, and I don't have any of the technology that I would have needed to have been sharing in the excitement. That, doesn't mean I'm not tremendously excited. I'm totally tremendously excited. Um, the flies in my house. Um, that being said, I really, I admire your humility, because I feel like, whenever I hear you talk, what you're approachable, and I feel like that's, I mean, like, relatable is another great word, but I feel like, you know, you you're gonna give this words that other dads aren't gonna be intimidated by, and I feel like, it's what the world needs right now, is just, we need to expand this space, and to know that fatherhood, there are times where I think our kids don't come with manuals, and there are times where I think that they sort of do. And what I mean by that is that, if we learn how to get past all of our other crap, um, and the stuff that we're bringing into the moment, and if we can get that stuff out of the moment and get our present self back, but then, then the question is, how do we achieve that, without needing to be in the Buddha mind every single moment of every single dad opportunity. You know what I mean? So I feel like you're you're the guy I'd want to talk to you about that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, I feel the same way about, I mean, being on a part of this Modern Dad Council, which luckily from here on out, especially to the end of this year, I'll be able to, hopefully, if it's okay with you guys, I'll be on the show a whole lot more.
Hmm.
My previous job had me traveling a lot, and I always traveled Tuesday through Thursday. Well, for the next 3 months, we're kind of on house arrest due to budget constraints. So I'll actually be in my home office here quite a bit on Tuesdays, so which would be nice to be able to be on the show more. Because to be
Cool.
honest with you, I mean, some of the things that are included in that book have came from a lot of the lessons that we hear on this show, other shows. But I mean, Chris, Eric, Jay, Tommy, Thomas. I mean, a lot of the things that I've gotten to learn from you guys are in that book, and it's been tremendously helpful in my life. And to be able to share that with other people is very empowering, and it's pretty awesome. Because I mean, why keep all this great information to ourselves when we can help other people with it?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's the whole purpose of this show. It's like, show up, listen, maybe you get something off of it, and hopefully you do.
Yeah,
Um, because we're not claiming to be experts and know-it-alls. We're screw-ups and learning, as we go, applying that oxygen mask and, um, just focusing on the vision that we want to create in the world.
yeah,
So it's important for us to talk about it, and then hopefully as dads, men find out they're going to become dads, they say, hey, I want to get some information on different things and collect a little bit of wisdom. Because that's not really, it's starting, like there's this movement starting for us dads and men, um, and we're all a part of that, so it's cool.
yeah.
It's
It
good to
is.
see, and I'm really anxious to see the future as this becomes bigger and broader of a topic.
I agree because I think it's I think it's only going to get bigger from here because there are more men speaking out about it. It no longer really is a subject of kind of taboo or viewed as weakness. It's viewed now as it's being branded more of a strength. If you can go out and find these resources, then it is maybe a weakness or a struggle.
Hmm.
Well, and I think the other interesting thing is that like there was this kind of trend of the snag, right? Like the sensitive new age guy, So back I don't know 10 or so years ago, there was this divide. There's the rough dad, the dad who was just like the manly man, and then there was like the almost effeminate man, and so like now I feel like we're holding the space for the man in the middle, and the man in the mirror, in a way, and I feel like that's you know that's obviously going to be a really great place, to speak from, 'cause it's like it's where we are, we are we are kind of guys who know how to go to the gym and cry, not at the same time, unless weights
Depends
are
on the workout.
right, right. So, but I feel like that's what we get to represent. We get to hold the space for is like yeah, you can you can be a muscular person and still have emotions, and that's cool. Um, so I feel like not that I live life with any regrets really, but if I had it all to do over again, I'm sure I would have loved to know that there were more books out there that you know could could serve as a resource to me because I was lost when I was first a dad. I just did the opposite of what my parents did, and I threw that against the wall to see what stuck. So and I've heard from a lot of dads who did it that way. So I don't know. I mean, like, do you want to share more of like some of the meat that like that you're talking about?
Yeah, sure. What I can do is I'll give you some of the chapters, and you guys tell me what you want to hear about. So I have a chapter on how to basically develop enduring patience. Another chapter on how to develop more of a connection with your kids, uh, a connection with your spouse. Another chapter on why it's so important to surround yourself with like-minded fathers and men and people, and how to get the heck out of toxic relationships, whether they show up as family or whether they show up as friends or coworkers, what have you. Also,
Wait, I want to dive into that chapter right there a little
which
bit
one?
because that the one you just said with the finding like-minded fathers and families and stuff like that. What are some ways that you found to find people like that in your local area? Because for me, I found a huge family online
Yeah.
over the so many years that we've been in this space. But we're kind of the people I'm working with are you folks who are the leaders in this movement, right? So how are you finding more people in your local community that are actively doing things and
Are you
like
talking about more having better friendships? Are you talking about maybe other people who are trying to have a voice, like within this father space?
well, yeah, like-minded individuals that like maybe not necessarily that want to be a voice in this space,
Yeah.
but hold being a dad on high and look at it as a blessing for this opportunity.
Yeah.
Does that make
Great.
sense?
Totally. Yeah. So the way I break it down in the book is, hey, let's take a look at what the norm is out there. Let's take a look at the relationships that you have, that I have, that Eric has, that every dad out there, that every man really has out there. And if you look at most of the relationships that we dads, that we men have with other men, um, it's one of two things. We usually have a lot of acquaintances, but very few deep friendships. The quote unquote deep friendships that we have are usually the ones that we've had, like, no kidding around, since high school, like 20 years. And those relationships may or may not serve us in the best way, but we maybe just don't realize it. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. I still have a whole host of friends that I'm friends with, that I went to college with. that I went to high school with. And I can tell you, I mean, when you fast forward your life 20 years after high school, a lot of that common ground a lot of times doesn't fall in the exact same spot. So where I'm at in life may not be where someone else is at in life as far as my mentality and my goals to be a better man, a better father. Um, I mean, I've even have some friendships that they're a bit toxic. You know, they can tear you down a little bit. They can hold you back a little bit. As much as people around you want to see you succeed and be a better you, there's still a part of, I don't know what it is in human nature, that people want to hold you back. They don't want to see you change, even if it's for the better. One of the things that I talk about in my book is you will usually have two types of friends. You'll have what's called an energy booster. I just try to make it as simple as possible, or an energy drainer. The boosters are the ones, those are the solid relationships. Those are the ones you probably, if you're lucky, you have 1 to 3 of those friendships in your life. I mean, the people on this show right now, I would consider those people in my life. Those are the people in your life that challenge you to grow, that challenge you to be better, that relate to you, that are going to help you in a time where maybe you don't have it all together and you're feeling a struggle, whether that be with your patients or your work-life balance or connection with your wife or what have you. Those are the people that are going to sit down, they're going to listen to you, and they're going to help you through those things, and they're going to challenge you to grow, and they're going to challenge you to be better, and they're going to give you advice. You've got people on the other end of the spectrum that are in your life that you start talking about those things, and they're automatically going to say, dude, just toughen up, whatever, don't worry about it, for crying out loud, just man up, you know, or something like that. Something that will bring you back down, something that will take the wind out of your sails. And what I can tell you about those relationships is they they probably don't serve you in the way that you think that they do. The people that you want to surround yourself with are the people that are going to listen to you, and you're going to listen to them back. You're going to offer advice. They're going to offer you advice back. They're going to want to see you succeed. And that's what I can tell you about the energy boosters. In the book, what I have the reader do, if they want to, is write down the relationships of 5 people that they spend the majority of their time with. I even start the chapter with the quote from Jim Rohn, which is, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the majority of your time with when it comes to education, when it comes to income, when it comes to sphere of influence, your personality, how positive you are, how negative you are, even all the way down to your body weight. Write down those 5 people and then identify them. Is this person building me up? Is this person helping me? Is this person challenging me to be better? Or is this person bringing me down? Is there some toxicity in the relationship? And what I tell the reader is analyze, because very, very far and few between do we take a time out in life and put pen to paper, or even just think about that stuff and identify, okay, this person might not be serving me the best way, but these people over here are, and they're really helping me, and I'm helping them, and it's a very symbiotic relationship. Those are the people, those energy boosters, those are the people I need to go spend more time with, because they are going to make me a better person. They're like-minded. I'm going to make them a better person. The drainers, or maybe, the toxic relationships, those are the ones you say, hey, you know what, still love those people, still be friends with those people if you want to, but you can love and be friends with people from a bit of an arm's length, from a distance. You don't have to necessarily let them into your life where they can maybe, degrade you a little bit, or chip away at your confidence, or don't challenge you to grow. So that's really what that chapter is all about, is choosing your peers wisely.
I love that.
Thank you.
I just was having a friend on Facebook kind of go through something where they're going through a divorce, and so a bunch of people are commenting, let's all go out to the bar, let's go drinking, let's do this, let's do that. I'm like, dude, if that's what you get sucked into as you're going through this process, that's not going to help you elevate to the life that you're looking to lead. And
no,
so it always seems to me that when men really reach out to seek some sort of growth, it's during a time of crisis. Something major's going on in their life, whether it's a divorce or some sort of event similar, or even if they find out they're going to be a dad. But now it's this life-changing event, and they're going, oh crap, now I want to get some resources, get my ducks in a row, kind of figure out what's going on. And so I think it's really awesome that you wrote this book, Larry, and
Thanks.
I'm excited to hear a little more about it. So do you want to go through the other chapters? I know I stopped you uh, to talk more about that specifically, but you want to continue to go through the chapters and share a little more about it?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about, maybe a connection with your kids, connection with your wife, or how to have more enduring patience. I can do anything like that. What would you guys like to hear about as far as the content?
Yeah, Eric, you've been kind of quiet. You want to probe him a little bit?
Well, I mean, enduring patience is definitely something that I need. So, I mean, humbling myself to, I mean, just, and I feel like especially, you know, the difference between the sensitive new age guys enduring patience and the guy who goes to the gyms. I don't want to create those as the sides of the spectrum, but like, what does enduring patience look like for you, and how do you share about it in the book?
So I'll obviously kind of throw myself out there as far as how I used to struggle with it. I'll paint you guys a very clear picture of what I went through before I kind of started implementing these techniques in my life. So as I've really dove into patience, like how do I get more patience? Like what is patience? How do I get more of it? How do I attain this this mindset that I can handle life's curveballs and I can handle them in a very calm, cool, and collected manner? Really, the entire book, all 9 chapters, have some sort of nugget of information of patience. When you get done reading the book, you'll basically have 9 strategies for patience. But I did dedicate 1 chapter in it just to kind of explain how it was explained to me, maybe some of the research I've done on it, and some of my own experiences. So if I can give you a day in the life of what it was like, before I kind of started doing a lot of this self-reflection, I think I lived exactly like how the majority of us guys live. I went to my 9-to-5 job. It wasn't necessarily my dream job. I kind of struggled and kind of got through the day. I mean, Chris, I remember when you were working at the car plant, right?
Yeah,
And
GM factory.
yeah, the GM factory. And I knew you before you quit that job, and I remember what your personality was like while you were in that job. And it wasn't nearly the big smile that I see on your face right now that I see more often. It was different then. And because your mindset's different. You're doing something that you truly love, that you're truly passionate about. I mean, Eric, the same way with you. The thing about most of us guys is 9 out of 10 of us don't do that. We remain in that job and we spend 40 to 60 hours a week being freaking miserable. And you spend 8 to 10 hours a day doing something that you hate, you will probably come home in a really pissed off mood. And you're not going to be the best. So the challenge is this, is you're never going to convince a guy to be like, you know what, you should just, I mean, hats off to you, Chris, because not everyone can be like, you know what, I'm just done here, and I'm going to go do this. And I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm just going to figure it out. And it takes a lot of
It'll
courage.
work out.
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage to do that. So most guys, I'm included in that, I don't have the guts to do that just yet. I still work a full-time job. So I still feel the challenges of that from time to time. But what I can tell you is when you spend the majority of your day in an atmosphere like that, it wears on your patience because you've got people that want something from you constantly, or you feel like your skills are not being utilized to the best of your ability. You come home from an exhausting day, you walk through your front door, and I don't know why in my mind, like I ever expected me coming home to a clean house and dinner on the table and toys put away and happy children. I don't even know why I ever thought that that was a possibility, but like I would come home every day disappointed that that was not my reality. I'm like, man, I've been working all day. I gotta come home to this messy house. I gotta come home to like these kids, like, because when you have young kids, it's like a house full of drunks. someone pants, someone doesn't have shoes on. It's chaos.
Instead of beer on the floor, it's piss. Yeah, I get it.
It's madness. And if you don't have the right mindset, you can just get sucked down into that, and you're like, life sucks. I hate it. 9 to 5, I hate it, and then from 5 to 9, I hate it. I just hate it. So that's all that's all the external stuff. In the chapter, I break it down to you have external stuff that challenges you. That's the external stuff. The internal stuff is what really gets to you. And I know you guys can relate to this because it's that voice that talks to you quietly and says, why can't you handle this? You should be stronger than this. You're a bad father because you're irritable. You're a bad father because you're moody. What kind of example are you setting for these kids? And it just is that voice that just tears you down. So the chapter on unlimited patience is, number one, identifying those two things. You've got external things that are challenging you, and then you got this voice in your head that challenges you as well.
I called that my ex-wife. It totally was. Yeah. It's like I find myself repeating her, and I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
What have I done? I took other people's voices and made it my own.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for us it could show up as an X. I mean, no doubt about it. But the thing is to identify with that. So here's the strategies I give in the book. A lot of times our level of patience is right there in line with how burnt out we are in life and how burnt out we are at our job. And a lot of times what we need to do is we need to take time for a couple of different things. Number one, self-care. Do something for yourself every single day. I mean, Chris, in the beginning of the show, you talked about put your oxygen mask on first. And what I mean by that is do something positive for yourself every single day. That's one strategy. Take 10 minutes. Take 30 minutes. Read something inspirational in a book. Listen to an inspirational podcast. Go out and go for a run if that's what you like to do. Go to the gym if that's what you like to do. Do something for 30 minutes every day that you don't have to answer to somebody, that you don't have to meet a deadline, that it is just for you, and just enjoy it. Because what that's going to allow you to do is break the pattern of a chaotic, crazy day that's been wearing on your patients all day long. So that's one thing. Do something for yourself daily. The other thing is one of the biggest struggles I hear from most men is the hardest part about my day is the 5 seconds before I walk into my front door from work, because I just feel defeated, or I just feel like I don't have any patience, or I gave away all my patience throughout the day. And the best way I've been able to get this message across to men is be proactive in that mindset. And what I mean by that is, Chris, did you play sports growing up?
Yeah.
What'd you play?
I wrestled.
You wrestled. Okay, cool. Eric, what about you?
I wrestled.
You wrestled. Man, I've wrestled too. 3 wrestlers.
Wow. Group of wrestlers.
Yeah.
We can go
Yeah. So, okay, perfect example.
Something to be said about the sport of wrestling and parenting.
Yeah, entrepreneurship. So let me ask you guys a question. Before you guys hit the mat for a tournament or for a match, what did you do 10 minutes, 5 minutes beforehand?
Mental prep.
Mental
Sure.
prep.
Or eat spaghetti. Too.
Yeah, that was right after weigh-ins.
That's right.
But
yeah.
Step off that scale.
Yeah. But you're exactly right. Mental prep. Mental prep. I mean, any athlete, before you go into the big football game, before you go into the baseball game, before you hit the wrestling match, you mentally prep. What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? What am I going to do if he does this? I'm going to do that. You literally go through the motion. Same thing with a job interview. You know, if you go into a job interview completely cold, chances are you are going to bomb that interview. Same thing if you're doing a presentation for a customer. You prep. You prep your PowerPoint slides. You prep. And you know exactly what's going to happen. You even think about the objections you're going to get, the things that they're going to challenge you on. Being a father in the moment, 5 minutes before you walk in the door, is no different than that wrestling match. It's no different than that job interview. It's no different than that presentation. So what you want to do is prep. No matter how bad your day was, do something to get your mind out of that mindset. And what I mean by that is do something that's going to externally stimulate you. Like, for instance, listen to some positive inspirational music, something that will get your mind out of the basement, as I like to call it. Listen to an inspirational podcast. Even do something like clap your hands. Do something that's going to get you ready. A lot of the things that I do too is, and I've noticed worked for other guys, is they will visualize exactly what they're going to do when they walk in the front door, even if they have this defeated mentality. For instance, a lot of times if I've had a really rough day, I'll think about like, okay, when I walk in the door, I'm going to drop my bag, unless my computer's in it, then I might not drop it. But I'm going to drop my bag. I'm going to go up. I'm going to high five all my kids. I'm going to throw them over my shoulder. Maybe I'll dip down my wife and kiss her. But I'm going to do something that's going to create just excitement, and I'm going to do something that's different. And as weird as it is for like the first 20 seconds, because people are like, "What the hell are you doing, Dad?" Or like, my wife is like, "Whoa," it creates laughter, and it creates a cool atmosphere. And there's something to be said about momentum. When you start a night like that, it usually ends a lot better than if you would have walked in, because I can tell you, if I had anything to do over again, I wish I would have known that information earlier, because there were days, countless days, that I came home like a dog with my tail between my legs. I was irritable. I was moody. I hope that there's, in my kids' memory bank, as they get older, that they'll remember their father being happy coming home, because there were so many days I didn't. My wife always used to tell me that she could always tell exactly how the night was going to roll within the first 10 seconds I walked in the door, because she could tell by the look on my face what it was going to be like. So that, I think, is a few strategies that will help with patience. Is number one, do something for yourself every day to avoid burnout. Number two, be proactive in your mentality. Be prepared for what you're going to do when you greet those people. Be prepared what you're going to do when your kid throws a ball and it goes through your window and it shatters. Be prepared when your child comes to you and says, "Dad, I got an F on this test. I tried my best." Be prepared for those things, because if you react instead of respond, it's going to make that situation worse, and you're going to beat yourself up mentally for reacting the way you did.
Very powerful. Yes.
Yeah. I love, I don't mean to interrupt you, Chris, but like one of the things that I've been trying to do for the past, I'd say 4 or 5 years, and that's sort of when I converted from like my opposite parenting to like present parenting, or there was this promise that I made my kids a while ago, even before they were born, is that I promised to do my best not to carry any other stuff from any other part of the day or the year or the life into any given moment with them, so that if I was needing to be the person of discipline, then it would only be that moment's discipline, if that makes sense. And I guess the other point is that, like, I made, today is a really interesting example. So I get to go pick up my daughter from her mom's house and take her to dance, and that's the only time I'm going to get with her today. So the old me would have said, I have to get my daughter to dance, and I am a glorified taxi driver. But like the new me is like, I get that half hour with my daughter, and I'm gonna have that be the best possible half hour ever, in this day. And it's shifting from my have to I get to. And I don't know if you've got any language that's similar in your book, because like this is kind of like the Peace Corps, like the toughest job you'll ever love, and
Wow, yeah, that's a good analogy.
So I don't know if that, ignites anything for you.
It does. I mean, I couldn't agree more. It is the toughest job that you'll ever know. It's the most humbling job we'll ever have, but yet it's so rewarding, and it's so fulfilling. The problem that I used to have, and again, I didn't know this until I started talking about it more, was a lot of us want to talk about, and a lot of us want to convey this picture of perfection when it comes to being a father. A lot of us want to portray that we have got it all figured out, and in actuality, inside we're struggling, a lot with it. There really isn't a whole lot out there as far as training, and it can be humbling, so humbling at times, because a lot of times we haven't developed a skill set. I mean, fatherhood is just like anything else. It's a learned skill set. The problem is that a lot of times we don't develop the skill set until we look back. I think about the quote from Steve Jobs, you cannot connect the dots by looking forward, you can only connect them by looking back. And sometimes when I think about that, I think about regret, and a lot of times before I kind of started this journey with the book and the website is, what am I going to regret when I'm older? What am I going to feel bad about? What am I going to wish I would have done differently? And there's a part of me that just wants to know this stuff. I just want someone to guide me. I just want some information, because that will help me, because then that way 30 years from now, I may or may not, I probably won't sit there and say I have regrets, because at least I could sit there and say I tried everything I could to get the information to be my best, so I could be my best for my kids. Therefore, I don't have that many regrets. I think we all have some regrets, but I think if you can minimize those, with information comes empowerment. With growing and learning, you become empowered. And when you have those tools, you feel more confident. And when you feel more confident, you can enjoy things more. The journey of fatherhood doesn't have to be so much humbling and little reward. It could be a lot of reward and a little humbling. I mean, that's my belief in it.
I think the important thing to keep in mind is that if you're not where you want to be right now, that you can start right now. It's just by making a choice, and then shifting, and beginning that, like what you were saying, that it takes preparation. So you prep before you go into a meeting. You prep before you go into a job interview. So how do you prep, every day for showing up this day at, and take, because everything is, you have to take everything a day at a time. And so how do you show up today to say, okay, what is my vision for my life? What is the life that I want to create? What is the what kind of family do I want to have? What kind of relationships do I want to have? And then, so for me at least, it starts in my morning shower. So when I step out of this shower, my vision for the day is to create these types of relationships, this type of a connection with people. So many interactions with my kids or my family or whatever it is. Like, this is the vision that I set for my day. Now I step out of the shower, it's time to begin. And that's what I, for my practice, it's my morning shower. So when I step out, that's like the gun going off to go for the day and get that stuff accomplished.
Right.
So yeah.
No, I like that. That's good. I mean, whatever cue that you can give yourself to win the day, I think that's incredibly impactful. We not this coming Sunday. So what is that? October. It's this coming Sunday. We have episode 28 of the Good Dad Project. Yeah. We interviewed a New York Times bestselling author and Navy SEAL commander by the name of Mark Devine. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Mark Devine. Have you guys heard of him?
Nope.
Nope. Go check that next week. Go check out that podcast. Probably the best interview I think we've ever done. Mark has a book, a New York Times bestselling book that he wrote called Unbeatable Mind. And what it really does is it takes you in the mind and the daily life of a Navy SEAL and their mindset and how he developed it. And it And what we did was is we interviewed him and we said, how can you take these skills? Because he's a father too. How do you take these skills that you learned from the Navy SEALs and developing mental toughness and mental fortitude? How do you then turn that into a fatherhood skill? And that interview, it was unreal. I mean, I've had Master Yoda moments with J40, but I've had, I think I had a full hour with Mark Devine.
Sweet.
But he really talked about being prepared and being proactive in your thinking and your approach to fatherhood. Exactly. I mean, the example you just said, Chris, like stepping out of the shower and that's when you're ready to go. He used the analogy of like when he gets up out of bed, he claps his hands. I think that's what he said. But it's something that cues him to win the day, because when he was in battle and when he was in the trenches on missions, one of the things that they did the most was proactive thinking and prepping for any situation, because a Navy SEAL always says, if you go out there onto the battlegrounds and you don't have a plan of action, you're going to get your ass handed to you and you're going to die. And that's with anything in life. And that's one of the things that he was able to interpret for us from a fatherhood perspective as well, which was interesting. Like he gave an example of when his 16-year-old son can challenge him, and he can, as much mind control as that man has, there's parts of him that just wants to react. And he goes through like a 3-step process of how you can calm your mind, calm your body, and look at that situation very differently.
What's really interesting is that I've participated in about 13 firewalks.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we do in advance of crossing the fire is we create a power move. So for me it's just like like that on my chest, and so I whenever I'm going through something that requires a little more of a boost, I've got another gear available, and I just feel like winning the day is such and it's a very masculine, kind of concept. I mean, and I sort of remember like Little Miss Sunshine where like it was kind of over exacerbated. Winners do this, but like and but like I really feel that if we can help our kids, learn what it means for us to win the day, and for them to know that they're part of us winning the day, like that's got to be a really empowering thing too. Is like for them to know that we actually have a parenting goal or a fatherhood goal within our larger perspective on what it means to win the day. I feel like that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So, Larry, what I'd like to do is give you one more opportunity to introduce the book, kind of share with people where they can get it. If you want, go ahead and add your lower third with a website or whatever contact information you want to give them, and then we're gonna wrap up for the day.
Okay.
But give you a chance to give a final shout out and a place they can go to find that information.
I'm not exactly sure how to put a link, but I mean here's the thing. I can just tell you, if you go to Amazon, just go to Amazon, type in Dad Edge, just Dad Edge. My book will be the first and only that will pop up. The cover is it's actually a really cool cover. It's me with my back to the camera, with my son on my 7-year-old on my shoulders, and we're on the edge of a mountain, 10,000-foot summit in Colorado that we went up. And so that's the Dad Edge. You can find that on Amazon. If you want to follow some of the things that we're doing over at the Good Dad Project, go check out actually our new website. If you've been on our website before, as of last week, we've got a brand new website. The guy who developed it just did a phenomenal job. I mean, it's just so nice. What I've done there is I've got a bunch of free resources on there now. If you go to gooddadproject.com, go to resources, you'll see a couple of really short, tiny ebooks on there that will help you with some of the pain points that I know dads go through. The other thing too, if you go to resources and you go to the Dad Edge book, you can put your name and email address in there, and I'll send you a free chapter. So yeah, there it is right there. Yeah, so it's $12. It's $4.99 on Kindle. It's been just a wild ride. It's been really cool. But if you even want to get a preview of the book, go to my website, gooddadproject.com, resources. Go to the Dad Edge book, and on that website, you can put your name and email address, and I actually will send you a free chapter in the book. So if you want to do that, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, you can follow us on the podcast. You can subscribe you can subscribe on Stitcher or on iTunes. Podcast has been super successful. We are actually at 99 5-star reviews, waiting for that 100 before we cross over into 100 5-star reviews, which would be awesome. But yeah, and I'm not really picky about who I connect with on social media. It's been just an honor and a privilege being connected with so many like-minded men and fathers. So find me on Facebook. We have a page, The Good Dad Project, on Facebook and on Twitter, The Good Dad Project, and on Instagram, Good Dad Project. But even shoot me a friend request on Facebook. I always like to just put a name with a face, if you want to connect. So just always trying to surround myself more with like-minded individuals and fathers.
Awesome. Yep. And, it's been great having you on the show and a part of all this. So thank you, Larry. And thank you, Eric, for joining us today. And you can check out Eric at the Game Changer Movement. Eric, do you want to let everybody know where they can find you too?
Sure. Well, Dream Catalyst, the organization that I created about 4 or 5 years ago, is sort of the parent or the umbrella organization for the Game Changer Movement, and we're about to launch brand new energy around the Game Changer Movement, which has this big, hairy, audacious goal of inspiring youth to trade in at least 1 million violent video games. And I feel, more recently re-energized to take this on, specifically following the shootings that just happened in Oregon. It's becoming more and more abundantly clear that the evidence, the research has been asking the wrong questions for a really, really long time, but now the right questions are being asked. And I guess the rightest question or the rightest answer is, what could we train our kids to do using video games as the learning modality if they weren't spending countless hours learning how to kill, using games. So that's the question we're going to answer with a lot more vim and vigor going forward, because the evidence is just blatantly clear right now that there is an association. People are training themselves to do these things using video games as their training platform. And so now it's time to say, okay, well, now that we know that video games are a tremendous learning opportunity, what could we teach, or what could people learn if they weren't spending all their time learning how to kill? So I'm using really blunt, kind of more forceful language than I've ever used before, because I don't have that patience anymore. Like, I have a deep sense of urgency, and I'm ready to take this on fully. And so you can reach me at Eric, ERIK, at dream-catalyst.org. And I'd love to have a great conversation. There's a Facebook page for the Game Changer Movement, which is gamechangersexperience.org. And that's on Facebook. And so that's if you like that site, then we can engage in a conversation, because I feel like I'm full up on Facebook friends or close to it at any given moment, but there's plenty of room, on the Game Changers Experience site, Facebook page to engage in the conversation. Thanks for the opportunity to share about that.
Excellent. No, thank you so much, Eric. And thank you, Larry, for coming on and sharing about your book. And this is the Modern Day Council. Check us out next week, and we'll see you later.